Winter Challenge. The cold winds of late November swept through the streets of Chicago like a warning to anyone bold enough to challenge its winters. The city awakened beneath gray skies as snowflakes drifted slowly from the heavens, blanketing sidewalks, rooftops, and alleyways in white. For Wesley and Rose, this was no ordinary morning. It was their first winter in the great northern city, a city with broad shoulders, fierce winds off Lake Michigan, and storms that showed no mercy to the unprepared. Back in Mississippi, winters were gentle. A cool breeze and morning frost were enough to make folks complain. But here in Chicago, winter was a living thing, wild, powerful, and unforgiving. Inside Mother Mitchell's warm little home on 43rd and Ellis, Wesley slowly rose from bed before dawn. The windows rattled as the wind howled outside like a restless spirit. He walked quietly toward the front room and peeked through the curtains. Snow covered the streets in thick layers, and the street lamps glowed softly through the blowing storm. Before Wesley could gather his thoughts, the front door burst open. John Lee Larry stumbled inside, shivering so hard his teeth clattered together. "What the hell is happening?" John cried, stomping snow from his boots. "I can't feel my toes. Shoot, I can't even feel my fingers. It's snowing, the wind's howling, and I can't see 5 feet in front of me." Wesley chuckled softly, despite the bitter cold. "Slow down, brother," he said calmly. "I know it's cold as hell, but panicking won't warm you up none." John wrapped himself tighter in a blanket. "Man, this city ain't natural." Wesley placed a steady hand on his shoulder. "Listen to me. We didn't come all this way just to turn around and run back home. Chicago tests everybody, but if we stay smart and stick together, we'll make it through." John's breathing slowed as he nodded. "That's why I follow your lead, Wesley," he admitted. "You always find light in the darkest moments, even in this frozen mess." Wesley smiled. "Well then, listen close." He leaned toward John and whispered his plan carefully into his ear. At first, John looked confused, but slowly his eyes widened with excitement. "Oh," John whispered back, "now that's thinking ahead." By midday, the smell of bacon, eggs, and biscuits filled the house as the family slowly woke from sleep. The warmth inside felt comforting compared to the storm outside. Rose and Ruth stepped carefully onto the front porch, immediately greeted by the icy wind. Rose wrapped her arms tightly around herself and gasped. "Lord have mercy, did I forget to pack warm clothes?" She laughed nervously. "It is freezing out here." But even through the cold, her eyes sparkled with wonder. Snowflakes drifted softly onto the sidewalks while neighborhood children laughed and played in the street. Some rolled giant balls of snow together while others lay flat on the ground, moving their arms and legs back and forth. Rose pointed curiously. "What are they doing?" Ruth smiled warmly. "They're making snow angels." Rose stared in amazement. "It looks beautiful, like something from a dream." For a moment, the harshness of Chicago disappeared beneath the magic of winter. The snow transformed the crowded Southside blocks into something peaceful and new. "But we don't have clothes for this weather," Ruth added. "We can't even walk to the corner store dressed like this." That was the moment Wesley had been waiting for. He stepped forward confidently and gently took Rose's hand. "Good morning, my beautiful queen," he said softly. "I hope you slept well." Rose smiled despite the cold. "Yes, I did. Your mother has been wonderful to us." She paused and looked around at the swirling snow. "But maybe we underestimated this city." Wesley nodded understandingly. "I hear everything you're saying, but I would never bring you here without a plan." John quickly jumped in. "That's right, we got a plan." Ruth folded her arms and smirked. "You mean Wesley got a plan?" John straightened proudly. "Now hold on, Ruth. I learned strategy while I was in the army." Ruth burst out laughing. "Strategy? Boy, sometimes you can barely walk a straight line. Half the time you don't even know what strategize means. Everyone laughed, including John. Trying to save his dignity, John muttered, "Well, I know it now." The laughter eased the tension in the cold morning, and for the first time since arriving in Chicago, the group felt hopeful. Then Wesley finally revealed his idea. "Ladies," he announced proudly, "at noon today, John and I are taking y'all downtown on State Street." Rose blinked in surprise. "Downtown?" "That's right," Wesley continued. "We're buying winter coats, gloves, scarves, hats, matching boots, and I think my lady deserves a matching purse too." Rose stared at him, stunned. "Baby, that sounds wonderful, but where'd you get money for all that?" Wesley grinned. "While I was in the army, I saved more money than folks realized. Besides, don't worry about that right now. What matters is making sure my queen stays warm and fashionable in the Windy City." Rose's eyes softened with emotion. For the first time since leaving Mississippi, she felt safe. Not because Chicago was easy, not because the winter wasn't frightening, but because Wesley carried himself like a man ready to fight for their future. Just then, Mother Mitchell opened the door. "What are y'all doing standing out here freezing to death?" she scolded lovingly. "Come inside and eat before your breakfast gets cold." Everyone hurried back into the warmth of the house. As they gathered around the kitchen table, steam rose from cups of coffee and plates piled high with food. Outside, the snow continued falling over Chicago's south side, but inside that small home, hope burned warmly. The challenges ahead were real. The winters would test them. Money would grow tight. The city itself would demand strength from every one of them. Yet deep down, Wesley knew something important. Chicago could freeze a man's body, but only fear could freeze his spirit.